Hi, I'm Tony Wilbert with CoStar News. I'm here with Hugh Chen. He's president of Saglo Companies out of South Florida. They own shopping centers. Hugh, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we were talking earlier, availability seems to be a big topic, or the lack of availability. But we were talking about shadow inventory. What's that, and what's the status of that?
All right. The not talked about or not often talked about shadow inventory. So let me explain. I've been in the business for 25 years, so I've been through a few cycles, the 9/11, the GFC, and then latest, the COVID. My first 10 years in the business, I actually did retail leasing. And one of the tricks, if you're trying to find great space for tenants, would be to call 100% leased shopping centers to find out if any of the tenants are weak and would the landlord like to replace that tenant. And that's kind of called shadow inventory, because if you have a tenant that's weak, national or even local, and you're a landlord and you're trying to decide what to do here, you want to have some options. But if you have no options, oftentimes you're just making decisions that you don't really want to do. And oftentimes as a landlord, you're telling your leasing agent, hey, market this space as if it was vacant, and they're looking at you saying like, okay, you want me to lease market 100% lease shopping center, I got vacancy to lease. Leasing agents being leasing agents, they're just going to go to the path of where they can make the most money. So you're not getting as much attention. So that shadow inventory is just and I don't want to name tenants, but there's just the obvious tenants that, hey, they're looking a little weak. Maybe the landlord would like to replace them. Maybe they're behind on rent, and you don't know until you call.
So do you think then, when we hear there's 4.7% availability, that it's actually probably higher?
I think so. I think that, I don't even want to give anecdotal. I think the CoStar researchers probably know a little bit better, but it could be another percentage point.
Oh, wow.
Nothing huge, but here and there's opportunities. And I think that even in really nice properties as well, because the rents are very high. You need to, at Class A properties, Main on Main, you really need to generate a lot of sales to pay that rent.
So is Saglo looking to add to its portfolio, buy new centers?
Of course. And we're in the ring with everybody else. We're chasing the same stuff, 10 to $20 million properties. We're looking in the Southeast, the Mid-Atlantic, but we're really looking for yield. So we've broadened our geography a little bit. We're starting to look at Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, not Illinois, but Alabama and Tennessee.
So how do you pick new markets?
Well, we're not that big of a company, 2.5 million square feet. We're based out of Miami. So number one, we have to get there relatively easily, direct flights, et cetera. But also, we look at the community. Every state has good communities that we'd want to own in, and also poor communities that we would want to own in. For example, in Florida, there's a lot of communities that just don't have the right attributes that we would want to own in, that I think would be long on retail. But in places like Alabama, there could be great areas that could be great for retail. I think, for example, Huntsville has a great aerospace industry that's really been thriving, and I think the retail there is doing relatively well.
So what's the latest market you entered?
We entered the Maryland market as a state, and Carroll County specifically, which is about 40 minutes west of Baltimore, about an hour north of DC. Great demos and a great property.
And you guys raise funds to make acquisitions, yes?
We do.
So are you currently raising a fund, or do you have plans?
We have plans to raise a fund, but I can't talk too much about that for regulatory reasons, but we do plan on continuing our growth through fundraising.
So it's a good time to buy?
It's always a good time to buy. No, and it depends on your hold, really. So I think that if you're thinking 10 years, I think it's absolutely a good time to buy. If you're thinking 1 year or 2 years, that's up to your risk tolerance.
Makes sense. All right, one last question. What's your outlook for the retail market for the rest of the year?
The crystal ball's a little hazy on this one. I'll tell you from my time at ICSC, going to the sessions, talking to a lot of other operators, I would say that there's a lot more optimism than the headlines would lead you to believe in the news, and that most people think that by December, that retail will still be performing fairly well, although there will be a period of turbulence maybe over the next 90 to 120 days.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, and please come back to CoStar News for more retail coverage.
Wear shoes built to last. Your feet'll thank you when the days move fast. North to south.